And welcome to Rock and Recovery, your podcast on hope. And today I have a special guest. His name is Andrew Drasen. I hope I said that last name right. Yet it's also Suicide Prevention Month. So if you know somebody that's going through it, just reach out to them, talk to them, let them know that you're there for them. And if you're somebody that's needing assistance, 988 in the US and Canada, 111 in the UK, just reach out, talk to somebody. It's stay another day. It's worth it. It's also recovery something else month. I can't remember. Recovery awareness month. So you know what? We're here to tell you that we do recover out loud on purpose for those people that are suffering in silence. So here's Andrew. Let's welcome him in. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Jay.
How's it going?
Going well. Busy as ever. How about yourself?
Well, I try to stay busy, so it's habits thing, idle time, idle hands type thing, So I try to stay as busy as I can. I live down here in Florida, so it's kind of easy to stay busy, and when I'm not, I'm on a beach.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm up here in Wisconsin, so 6 months out of the year it's pretty cold. So I'm pretty cold averse also. Florida is probably more of the location I should be in, but
I grew up in Colorado, so I was very used to the cold. I love the snow. And, it has to be one thing for it to be snowy out. Cold. I don't like the cold.
Yeah. I mean, kind of a catch-22 there.
It is. It's a terrible one, too. I love the beach. I love the ocean. I lived it down in Texas on the Gulf side. Now I'm on the Atlantic side. So it's a very different ocean, but the water is fantastic. I don't care.
Yeah. So, just a little bit about me. I struggled with addiction for quite a long time. I was in and out of jail, prison, treatment centers from my late teens throughout my 20s. Went through 8 different treatments before I achieved any kind of lasting, sobriety, any lasting clean time. So, my last time being incarcerated was in 2019, and treatment followed it. It was DOC mandated, so it was at Milwaukee Secure Detention Facility, which is a prison in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that serves for people on like probation holds or waiting on programs. It's not typically for people with new cases. Or if someone gets kicked out of like a medium secure or a minimum security prison, they might go there and wait until they go to a maximum, things like that. So I had thought about writing a book for quite a while, and my mom and I had actually talked about co-writing a book, telling basically the same events, but from both of our perspectives. So one side, it would be her version, flip it over, you'd see my version on the other side.
Okay.
And so on February 2nd, 2019, I ended up overdosing in my car in Milwaukee, and EMTs came to get me. And, they asked me, how much dope did you take? And I was like, I didn't take anything. I was taking a nap, waiting on someone,
Of course. Yeah.
How it goes. So, so they ended up leaving, and I was looking for my keys, and I couldn't find my keys. And like 30 seconds after they left, cops pulled up, and so I already knew what it was. Like they rolled down the window, like, "Hey, come over here. I'm just looking for my keys. Don't worry about your keys. Come talk to me." So
right.
Ended up doing a search, didn't find anything in the car, but I was being put on a probation hold, and I knew I was going to jail. I had put my dope and my syringe between my butt cheeks, and they ended up taking me down to the district, and I don't know what it was, but like the demeanor of these officers made me think that they actually cared. And so we had some time to kill. They agreed to wait for my sister to come because I had my contacts in. And I don't know if you've ever been to jail, but
I did 20 years in prison. So yeah.
Okay. Well, it sucks getting locked up in contacts, it sucks.
Yeah.
So they agreed to wait until my sister got there with my glasses, which was cool. So we had like an hour to kill. And so I kind of told them my story, how the first time I sniffed an Oxycontin, it was instant, it was
Yeah.
like I'd been holding my breath my entire life and I was finally able to breathe, like that's.
So how did you grow up? What led you to addiction? Was there a traumatic experience? Was it just, let's just try it?
Self-doubt. I mean, I dealt with bullying as a child to an extent. I was overweight. I had self-image issues. There was, I don't want to say instability in the home, but like my grandfather was a functioning alcoholic, and most holidays would end with us leaving early, my mom in tears, us trying to figure out what happened because alcohol just made him mean. And so, my sister, she had a bout with addiction. So it does kind of run in the family. So started smoking and drinking around age 11, 12, and, high school, that's really where things kind of accelerated. In ninth grade, it just turned into smoking weed all the time. Then it turned into, I ended up getting prescribed to Xanax. Like I don't even know if it was anger issues or if it was just like hormones, but I had a low tolerance for frustration. Like one time I remember like punching a hole in the wall just for something like very trivial. I don't even remember what it was. Another time, this was back when like LimeWire was a thing, and like it took like, half hour to download a song, and like this album was taking much longer than I thought it should, and I like picked up the monitor and I was about to throw it through a door. And so I went and saw a psychiatrist, and he put me on Xanax, and so that kind of started me on pills, and then it graduated from there. Oxys at 16, heroin by 19, injecting by 20, prison by, I don't even remember how old I was at this point, 23 maybe first time, 25 the second time. So yeah. And I forget where I was.
You were in the jail, and the cops seemed to care.
Yeah. So I told him my story, and told him, first time or I was addicted. At the first time I sniffed an Oxycontin, and how I graduated, sniffing heroin to shooting heroin, and how I'd had a year clean before my relapse, which was recent at that point. And how I just kind of lost my appreciation. I lost my gratitude. I stopped doing the things that kept me clean. And so eventually that discontentment turned into thoughts, which I didn't do anything about. I didn't really challenge those thoughts. they passed, and then they stopped passing until they just took over my thought process. And how like my sister and I had talked about starting our own podcast, and how I just kind of wanted to tell my story and help people. And he was like, yeah, you should do that. I think you could help a lot of people. And then he ended up kicking over a garbage can near my feet, and he was like, throw that away. There are cameras all over. And I looked down, and the syringe had fallen out of my pant leg. And so I didn't waste any time. I picked it up, threw it in the garbage, and he was like, do you have anything else you need to get rid of? And at this point I had a decision to make, like this guy already let me throw the syringe away. Like he seemed, and that was another thing that he said too. He was like, believe it or not, there's still some cops out there that want to help people. And I was like, yeah, I kind of got that vibe from you guys. And so then he was like, do you have anything else you need to get rid of? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, flushable? Yeah, it is. So he took me inside to one of the little holding cells and let me flush my dope. So that was really cool, because I mean, had I got caught with that, I probably
another felony.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, I have 7 as it is, and they're all drug related. And at the time I was looking at like 7 in, 5 out if I got kicked out of drug court. And that was mandatory. So, had I gotten another charge, I don't know how it would have turned out at that point.
That's funny, because going to the cops' care. So when I was going through the first stages of my recovery, so the reason I got sober was because I was married, and my wife had her own addiction and depression issues, and I found her hanging in my closet. So the day that I had to go do the honor walk with her because she was an organ donor, I was in a busted ass Cadillac. I mean, it was a nice car, but it didn't have a registration. I had the bill of sale, and I didn't have a license. There's no insurance on the car. Now I go to this 7-Eleven, and it just so happens there's a cop there. One of the ones that know me personally just knows what just went on a few days before. And he's like, and I was getting air in the tire or something that just angered me. I had to go and get quarters, and the air machine was busted. And I come out and I find the air machine won't take my quarters. So I see this cop coming back out, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it. So I go to him. I'm like, hey, he's like, and by this time he dresses me by my first name, and that's how well I was known in my town, is they all knew my name. And he's like, Jay, what's wrong? I'm like, I'm trying to get to my wife. She's got her honor walk today, and I'm just trying to get there. I don't have a license. My car's registered or temp tag on it. I got the bill of sale. I don't have insurance, and I'm trying to get air in my tire. He's like, you need air in your tire? He's ready to call for somebody to get air in his tire, I'm like, no, the air machine's broke. And he's like, what do you want me to do? You're just another person. Be on your way. Just obey traffic laws. I don't have a license, and he knows this, but that's showing the level of compassion that some police do have. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I think that's kind of one of the narratives that needs to shift just in society as a whole.
Absolutely.
Between police and the community, because the community as a whole, just speaking very generally, has a relative mistrust of police. And
yes,
so, but, at the same time, that mistrust just breeds more mistrust, and we can't open up those lines of communications because we don't know what police have to go through every day. I can't imagine having that job. Not
how many times have they been lied to, taken advantage of because they do have a heart, and then they have to become heartless, So I respect them, especially the good ones. There's a lot of good ones. There's just as many bad ones, but predominantly, I think you're going to find the good ones. We overemphasize the bad experiences with them. You see that all in the media and everywhere else. You don't hear too much good that they do unless it's something superhuman, super miraculous that they do. You don't really get that emphasis on cops are there to protect you, to protect and serve, like it says, but they do have a heart, they do care, and they will get you help if you're asking for it.
Yeah. And I mean, I do also think that there needs to be like more training for police officers.
Absolutely.
Like I know in I want to say like Switzerland, something like that. It's a 3-year course to become an officer. I mean, there should be like psychology course, escalate or
de-escalation.
Yes. Things of that nature, dealing with people with mental health issues, because they deal with those on a daily basis. I mean, a lot of us have mental health issues,
And I think there's a mandate. I know in Colorado, where I'm from, there's a mandate now that they've got a mental health crisis intervention team that will go out there with the police. And if it's just a mental health issue, they're like, all right, here you go. But until it turns into a criminal issue, because they're locking up people up for mental health issues, and that's wrong. I seen it in prison. They would solitary confine somebody for years and years and years that have a mental health issue, and then all of a sudden let them out in society. Like, here you go, you're free, have fun. What do you expect?
Yep. I mean, that's just setting someone up for failure. I mean, the way that our prison system is set up, there's no real step down process.
There's no rehabilitation. There's no reintegration. There wasn't when I was in prison. I took every single class that they had to offer, and then they'd give me $100 and say, you're done. I'm like, well, what do you mean I'm done? You're not going to help me? I had to start over so many times. It's ridiculous. I got used to not having anything, and then the things that I would held on to were just temporary, you know.
Yep. I can relate to that big time. I mean, because like I didn't sit like long periods. The longest period I sat was like 23 months. But a lot of times you end up losing everything when you go in and you get out and it's just start over. And I mean, like really, I mean, I think the way that they should have it is like, your last couple years spent at
That'll be a step down process.
Yeah, work release to a halfway house release. Like help reacclimate people step by step, especially after like long bids. Like, and then there needs to be more support for people re-entering. Because after 20 years, I mean, I can't imagine how different the world was after that period of time. I mean, technology alone, I mean, going from paper applications to creating profiles for every job.
Right. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you're probably not getting a job anymore. And that's at a mom and pop place. It's just crazy.
Yep. Or a warehouse job, something like that.
You start at a temporary and then you might get a permanent, it's just nuts that the resources that there are for ex-felons coming out are little. And if you have a theft from a retail theft, you're not getting a job anywhere.
Yep.
You're not getting a job with a retail theft. Hate to say it. It's just going to nobody's going to hire you with the retail theft on your background. Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it's better to get creative and find what you're good at and find a way to monetize it.
Yes.
Like let's say you're creative, launch an Etsy store, or design shirts that are ship on demand, or video. Like there's a million different things that you can do that don't require a job.
Well, back to your story. I'm sorry to get sidetracked. It happens to me all the time. But back to your story. You're just the cop just flushed let you flush it.
Yeah. So then, and then I did a little bit of a tour the first couple of days. They took me to the House of Corrections. I was there for like a day or two, and I was withdrawn. I told them that I was a daily Xanax user, and I hadn't been on Xanax for many years at that point. But I knew at least they'd give me Valium, which they did, which helped with the withdrawals. But I was still throwing up, and it wasn't good. Then I went from there to MSDF, was there for a few days, transferred to Racine County, which is where my probation was out of, maybe half hour, 45 minutes south of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And so that's kind of when I decided to write the book. I found out I was getting an ATR for MSDF, and I was looking at doing 8 months. So I knew I had the time. A lot of the other time pretty much all the other time that I'd done wasn't spent the most productive. I mean, I'd work out and I'd read books, but they were like,
the fiction,
and then, crime, James Patterson, Dean
absolutely.
Things like that. And I'd, gamble on spades and poker and dominoes and, like
the football parlays.
Yeah. Up till 3 a.m. playing chess if I was in the dorms. It depends where I'm at. And so I decided, I got the time, I got the will, let's write it. So I wrote my memoir, and writing it was definitely a very healing process. I mean, I basically relived everything. I mean, it brought me right back there, and so I shared some of it with just people throughout my stay at Racine County Jail and then at MSDF. And like the reception that I got was it was awesome, and it was very motivating, and, it kind of let me know that my story could help others, whether you're heading down that road and, it can serve as a cautionary tale, or if you're already there, it can show that no matter how far down you are, as long as you have hope and you're willing to take the next step forward, you can change your life.
So this 90-day program that you started or that you created, tell me about that and what it is entail.
Yeah, so it's not live yet, but So what started as the memoir, it spun off into basically 3 books. So there's a Reflections companion book, which just talks on 29 different topics total and a wide range of topics. So the memoir is like what happened, what I felt and what I thought when it happened. The Reflections companion book is the lessons learned and the wisdom gained from what happened. And so, I speak on everything from, self-acceptance, faith and anxiety, depression, God, heaven and hell, police, our political arena, just a wide variety of topics. And really, it's not it's more meant to get people to think and to kind of apply it. One thing that they say in meetings is like, take what you can use and leave the rest. So if something sticks with you, awesome. Then I built a workbook, and that's so people can turn it into practical application. So it's meant to be used in conjunction with the memoir and the Reflections companion book. It's structured, and it's kind of broken down into different parts. So like the first part is kind of looking back at your early life and your family life and doing a lot of identification. Second is more looking at yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your goals, hopes, dreams, where you hold shame, if that's still bringing you purpose, like if that's benefiting you in any way. Then after you do some kind of self-discovery, then it is visualization, visualizing what do you want your life to look like. Then it's creating an action plan and writing goals down and breaking those goals down into smaller goals. So it's actually
measurable, achievable, attainable goals. Yeah. Realistic goals, smart goals.
Yep. And then also putting a date on them. Harvard did a study and showed that if you write your goals down and you put a date on when you want it accomplished by, you're significantly more likely to achieve that goal.
Because it's not some distance in the future, it's attainable and measurable, and you can see the progress, and there's your date. Yeah, I can understand that.
And the date just kind of lights a fire. It's like, okay, I got to get this done by this date.
Right.
It's going to prevent procrastination and just kind of help you with consistency. Then after that, then it kind of zooms out a little bit, and it gets people to look at what kind of legacy do you want to leave? How do you want to be remembered? What impact do you want to have on your community? So hopefully by the end of the program, people will have done some healing, have a direction for their life, and know how they want to help society. Stop looking so much at what we can do for ourselves, but what we can do for our community. So yeah, like I said, currently I have the 90-day curriculum already structured, but the only thing with that, and ideally that's the ideal structure. And I also read like a Time magazine, I have it here, that's just focused solely on addiction, and it said that like 90-day structure is actually the preferred structure for treatments. So
it gives you a little bit of time to build those new habits. Instead of just like a 30 or 45 or a 60-day program, you're actually building new habits by that 90 days, and your thinking's changed a little bit. So I can understand why the recommended is a 90-day program,
Yeah.
So I know you talk about structure and accountability. Tell me why that's important in the transformation process of getting clean, staying clean, getting sober, or going through a recovery or anything. Why is that so important?
Well, structure, I mean, that's in addiction, or even with mental health issues, there's a lot of times there's a lack of structure. And so that leads to free time, not knowing what to do with your day. It leads to procrastination. It leads to, doom scrolling and just a lot of wasted time. One technique that I use and that I recommend people try is time blocking. So you set aside, you say from 10 to 11, I'm sending LinkedIn messages. From 11 to 12, I'm doing podcast outreach. From 12 to 1, I'm eating lunch. From 1 to 2:30, I'm going to the gym. So
you have a schedule that it's there in front of you, and you can, okay, did it today, yesterday? And so you can see. I can understand that.
Yep. And then another suggestion is that you put your phone in airplane mode if it's something that requires like full attention. The notifications will be there, but otherwise it's going to be a distraction. So
It is too.
yep. Yep.
So many times there's so much now electronical or device addiction that the FOMO for this whole new generation is real, and it's crazy to see that it going down that way. Why is accountability really important in this also? I know why it's important, but why is it important for your program?
Well, I think it comes down to honesty. It's being honest with ourselves and with others. Because if we're not honest with ourselves, nothing is going to change until we're able to take an accurate view at what we're doing, the impact that it's having on others, or the impact that we're not having on others. And we're willing to, like I said, get honest about that. And then also so one thing that I wasn't raised Catholic, but I believe in the power of confessionals. I believe that we're only as sick as our secrets, and that it takes form in some way, shape, or form. So if you're holding something in that, you're not letting people know, it's going to eat at you somehow, and it's going to manifest itself in other ways. So
absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be a priest. It doesn't have to be a sponsor. It could be a parent. It could be a loved one. It could be a stranger on a random, what are those apps? Meagle,
Right.
It's just expressing it and getting it out there and not holding it to yourself. Because once you expose a secret, it loses its power.
That's true. And that's what I tell everybody all the time. If you're keeping it inside, if it's trauma, if it's hurt, once it's scary, get it out. But once you let it out, what's the fear?
Yeah.
Where's the fear in this traumatic experience? Once you've had it, where's the fear in it? You can't let it hold you back anymore, because now everybody knows. Now, once it's out there, it's out in the universe, it's out there. You don't have to relive it all the time. You can start healing from it. You can start growing from it. And that's where the true change starts, is once you start to let things go, there is your whole change process right there. You've already learned how to let it go. Yes, it's scary. It's a scary thing to do, to hold on to this thing, this driving force behind the way you are. Your whole personality sometimes is wrapped up in a traumatic experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said it best, as soon as you let it go, it's just practicing acceptance that whatever happened, and we can't change that, but we don't have to continue to let it affect today and tomorrow and every day moving forward. We can choose to heal. And even if it's someone who wronged us, forgiveness isn't about other people. It's about us. It's about not letting those past actions control how we think and feel and act in the present. And and that's something that took me a while. It took me a while to learn how to practice acceptance, but it's definitely a much easier way to live.
Yeah, I had to get over what I went through. I had to find acceptance pretty fast, or else the guilt and the shame was gonna probably kill me. I would have done myself in, honestly. And after I found my wife, if it wasn't for finding the acceptance the parts, because you've been in prison. We know if you pray, if you're religious at all, you pray to a God, you pray, my Savior is Jesus Christ, but you pray to him to change you, change everything about you, make you a better person. All this, let my wife not want for anything. Let me be the man that I'm supposed to be, somewhat my role model for my kids, the man my wife thought I could be, and all that happened at one time. Let me be freer and clear of addiction. And it all happened to me at one time when my wife did what she did, and I couldn't have stopped that anyway. So I had to accept that fate, accept that. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be here right now, honestly.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your wife. My fiance, who I'd been with for 5.5 years, she committed suicide in July. So I feel where
this July,
your pain. Yeah.
Let me see. So mine happened last June 24 or June 15th.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I didn't have to find her. I mean, I couldn't imagine,
Yeah.
experience was like, but I mean, I feel your pain.
And it's terrible to, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody, but, especially when you might not be getting along at the time, but that doesn't matter. You still put time and effort and love this person because, hey, you're there, and you built a relationship. It could have been a terrible relationship, but it's still your relationship. There's good time along with bad times. It don't matter,
Yeah.
And just that having to accept the fact that, all right, it didn't happen because of me or to me. It happened to, I really think it was her way of saying goodbye and letting go so I could be this person that, that she knew I could be. I had to accept that. And that's hard, because it's just hard to accept, because you still get early in recovery, you still get those feelings and those thoughts of not being good enough, being too much, being uh, uh, not worth it, or not being loved. If you were loved, why didn't they stay? If you're good enough, why didn't they stay? It's a vicious cycle. But once you start accepting it, it helps a lot. I accept that it didn't happen because of me, or it didn't happen to me. Is just something that needed to happen to let me become who I was supposed to become.
Yeah, and that's just it. We go through what we're meant to go through to become who we're supposed to become. It's just whether we do the work and look inward and really analyze it and come to. It's whether we grow from it, or if it's just something that happens to us.
Or if we're going to hold on to it and use it as an excuse to treat other people or to keep in the same actions, if we're going to use it as an excuse to bleed all over everybody else, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what I didn't want to do. And I knew there was one of two ways, but at the same time, it took my it literally really did take my addiction. The only way it could have is by making it mean the worst thing possible, and that's luck. I would say lucky for me, and that sounds terrible, but it's true. Luckily, I didn't blast myself off to the moon because I was a methamphetamine user, IV, and I had drugs on me. I didn't blast myself off to the moon like I normally would have, because I wouldn't have came back.
Yeah.
I would have found the downers and probably hot shotted or hung myself. I'll be honest.
And for me, after it happened, it's like, I know drugs will never make me feel the way that I want to feel again.
No,
they don't work anymore. I will find death before I find peace in drugs. So
absolutely.
So it just really kind of reaffirmed my mission of trying to help people who are dealing with similar issues, whether it's substance abuse, mental health, reentry, incarceration, recidivism, any of these issues, and I feel like there's no better way to honor her memory than to help.
Exactly. It would do her injustice to see me go back to that route.
Yeah.
And for her to mean anything to me, then I will stay doing what I was doing right now, helping other people, talking about it, bringing awareness to it, telling us people that there is hope, because that's what it's really all about, is there is hope at the end of the tunnel. There is light there. You just got to choose the right path, and you got to put into it as much as you want out of it,
Yeah.
And that's the key thing, is you got to put into this. You can't just sit on coast and just do nothing. It doesn't work that way. It's work, it's effort. You got to put in effort to get it back, and yeah, that's a scary word. Those are scary terms, but they're really not. It's just, do you want it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, so 2 days after it happened, I was walking my dog and it started pouring out. And so we ran back to the condo, and I went out onto the balcony and kind of laid out there and watched the storm, and the storm ended up breaking, and the sky just turned so beautiful. It was like a picture wouldn't have done it any justice. And, it just kind of became like a metaphor for life, every life has its storms, it has its ups and downs, but if you hold on. There's beauty on the other side. You just got to
There
hold
is.
through the storm.
There's a rainbow at every storm, every rain shower, there's a rainbow, the worst things that you're going through probably ain't nearly as bad as you think they are. And not only that, you've got 100% survival rate of everything that you've already gone through.
Yeah, I like that.
It's true. We've got 100%. We're batting 1,000 on all the bullshit that we just went through to go through some more. It's okay.
Yeah.
We've got 100% survival rate.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. Never heard that.
So what in the process of writing your book, did you do it in stages? Like, I don't know how much time you said you did it, and how long did it take you to actually write?
Like 6 months of writing, like I'd say 4 to 8 hours a day, almost every day.
So when did you finish it?
I finished it 5 minutes before I got out.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Like I set a goal to finish it before I was released. And the morning of, I woke up.
Oh, man.
And I wrote the last journal entry because like the way that it's structured, there are journal entries interwoven between the chapters. So the chapters look back, the journal entries chronicle from getting locked up all the way through the treatment. So finished the last journal entry the morning of release.
How did that affect that last journal entry? It's like, yay, I'm getting out. Oh yeah, I'm done too.
Yeah, I mean, it's that the journal entry is pretty brief, that one. But it was at a point of I was ready, and like the book, a lot of it kind of reads like a train wreck because my life was a train wreck for quite a while. But at the end, it ends very hopeful, and that's was my mindset when I was released. And after I was released, I mean, I did change my life. I ended up getting a career in sales. I bought a condo. Caroline and I got together. We got engaged. Got a dog. I was in sales for like 6 years. Then I actually ended up losing half of the book. And I ended up finding it at my dad's house. And I took that as like a sign. I was like, I already had like half of it typed up because that was a big process too. Because obviously writing it incarcerated, I had to handwrite everything. And the first thing is getting it all onto like a doc file. And that was laborious. But
so how much anxiety did you have when you thought you lost that half of your book? I bet you're like, oh my gosh. I
knew that it had to be somewhere, like I didn't throw it out. No one else threw it out. I just didn't know where. My fear was that because when I was initially released, I lived with my sister for a couple of months in one of her daughter's room who lived there part-time. And then I ended up moving in with Caroline and her mother and her daughter. And we lived there for like a year. So I guess my fear was that I left it there and that somehow it got ruined or thrown out or, something along those lines. So,
and it would never be the same again if you tried to rewrite it.
I couldn't recreate it. I mean, because it was broken up into 2 folders. I had one with all the chapter entries, and then I had one with the topic entries that became the Reflections companion book and the journal entries. And I couldn't redo the journal entries.
No, because it's not the same feelings that you went through it right then when you're journaling. That's the whole point of a journal, is to put it down on paper, what you're going through that day, that specific instance. And you would never have been able to. I'm glad you didn't lose it, for not only your sake, but for the world's sake with this book. But so a big topic of this whole process is the healing, growth, and purpose. Why is that play such a big part?
Well, I mean, first, we all have trauma, like all of us, it's just what shape does it take? It could be something, as serious as like a serious addiction or serious mental health issue or a serious loss or, childhood trauma, abuse, bullying, self-image issues, self-esteem issues. I mean, it could even be the loss of a dream. Like maybe we had one vision of our lives and, we end up in a life that we never pictured for ourselves. And we're just not satisfied with many aspects of it. So, we all have something to heal from. You said purpose. What was the second one that you said?
Healing, growth, and purpose.
Growth. Yep. So yeah, I mean, we all have something to heal from. And then, I mean, growth, that's, I feel like the kind of the point of life, I feel like,
Absolutely.
we go through things and we're meant to learn lessons and to become better people and, lead the world as good as we possibly can with the impact that we individually can make.
Like growth for me is if you're not growing, what are you doing? You're stagnating and you're dying.
Yeah.
And
There's
so
no staying the same. It's you're getting better or worse.
yeah, one or the other. And here's the thing about addiction. We're all going to stop one way or another, whether it be 6 foot under or whether you put in the work and the effort to go into recovery and stay sober. Those are the two ways you're going to stop.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it was almost you wanted it, but it was kind of like forced on you too at the same time. But then you had the compassion and the grace of those officers that really kicked it off.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because I had an experience not too long prior to that. And like it kind of put me in a good and I talk about it in the book, but it put me in a good place, like mentally and spiritually, but physically I was still sick and hooked. And, that kind of gave me the time away. And I don't think I think that happened for a reason also, because I didn't need 6 months. It was originally 8. I think I did like 6. I got bumped up and put into an earlier program, but, and I don't think it would have taken me 6 months to like get clean and healthy enough to, stay off of, the hard drugs. But it did take me 6 months to finish the book. It took me exactly 6 months to finish the book. Wow. So, that's a pretty good byproduct, I guess.
You did change your life from pain to purpose. That's for damn sure. You definitely are offering a vision of hope. I'm probably going to read the book, just because it sounds good. I could probably use it, and it's funny how things work like that. And I've got a question for you, in this whole recovery process, do you still go to any type of meeting or any type of aftercare or anything like that?
No, I don't. I stay connected. So
yes.
I talk to my parents almost every single day. I have very close friends that I speak with multiple times every week. But this undertaking, now that I've kind of found my purpose, like anything else almost kind of feels like a distraction. And that I feel like when we're living intentionally, resilience and consistency is a natural byproduct of it.
Absolutely.
There's just go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, there's so much for me to do every single day. So pretty much all of my waking hours, I'm just now finally getting like all of the infrastructure all finished and beginning like full-time outreach. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And there's just so many more aspects than most realize to writing a book. It's more than just writing it and throwing it on Amazon. It's a lot.
What type of outreach are you doing?
So I'm doing podcast outreach. I'm probably signing on with, it's called Affluencer. They do like influencer outreach and like match brands with different influencers. So I'll probably look for some niche influencers. I have NetGalley, which provides advanced reader copies. And if you are a reader and are interested in reading the book, I'd be more than happy to provide you with an advanced reader copy. So
absolutely.
But yeah, they provide those for like librarians, bookstore owners, media, academics, things like that. I'm signing on with Edelweiss, which is another company kind of along the same lines as that. So I'd already had kind of automation going on LinkedIn, reaching out to treatment center owners and social workers and kind of people in that field. Now, the more that I think about it, I don't know if for the initial structure. So I'm also recording a virtual school community, and I'm going to go over the entire curriculum in the school community to be able to offer it to just folks in the community and as a virtual option. And more options. But because the initial 90-day inpatient structure, pretty much the only place that's going to work for is like Department of Corrections, re-entry, because most private rehabs, they're not going to accept 90 days of inpatient, somewhere like Hazelden or something like that, and they make their own curriculum. So what
kind of feedback have you had from the book so far? Have you had any feedback at all, or?
Glowing. Yeah. It's been awesome. It's been very reassuring. I have a website it's nearly done. There's still a few minor tweaks that need to be made, but I got a couple of reviews on there. I spoke with a lady named Diane, and she's involved heavily in reentry in Oregon and involved with multiple organizations out there. And I had a Zoom meeting with her and two of her colleagues, and like I only sent her the preview packet, which just consists of the prologue and one of the journal entries, and I think also an entry from the Reflections book. But the way that she spoke about it, it couldn't have been more reaffirming. So I guess best comparison would be like A Million Little Pieces, but without any embellishments, that's, I guess, if we're looking for comparative titles, or I guess Tweak, Beautiful Boy, Orange is the New Black. It kind of ties in that whole genre. But yeah, the encouragement that I've been getting has been phenomenal.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you're getting this positive feedback. It sounds like this book is going to help a lot of people. Your program is going to help a lot of people. That's very encouraging. That brings your life's purpose to a purpose. It's very reaffirming. Like you were saying, it's very reaffirming that, you're getting this good feedback. It's awesome. I think you're doing an awesome job. You got so much more than everybody that's in the prison system. Not everybody, but most, have so much more to give than most people will give them credit for.
I talked about that in the book too.
That it's crazy that, some of the worst people I've ever met were in prison. I've got a brother, not blood, but a brother I consider. He just got out last Friday from doing a 14-year indictment. And, so I'm hoping he's doing well. I'm still waiting for a phone call from him. But, and he did the same thing. He turned his life around. We were both addicts, and he went through the peer mentorship program. Now he's a peer mentor he is getting out to a job, as a mentor, addiction recovery coach. And so it's just so many things that people take for granted that we don't have, and that it's just crazy. Yeah. I could do a whole nother show on that, but it's crazy.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So how long have you been, when was your last day in prison actually?
Well, when I left MSDF, which, it's a prison.
Right.
I want to say it was July 21st.
Wow.
It was something July 21st, 2019. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I got off supervision in June of 2020, and haven't had.
And since then, it's been all gas, no brakes on you offering this book and getting it out there and doing what you're doing. I am fucking super proud of you, bro. I know we just met, but that is an incredible journey, and I'm sure you've had your ups and downs. How do you stay positive and focused on the goal?
So, we can't control a lot of what happens to us. We can only control how we react to it and what we gain from it. So, I analyze everything, and I lean into ChatGPT pretty heavily too. Just if you guys don't use that tool, it's a very good tool. And I dive deep on quite a bit. Sorry, I lost track of what was the question?
How do you stay focused on your end goal? How do you stay focused throughout the 6 years that you've been out trying to do this? How have you stayed so goal orientated and focused?
Well, to be frank, I mean, the book wasn't my focus for quite a while. I got together with Caroline shortly after release. I got the book maybe half typed up, and we got together and I started selling cars, which basically all of my time was spent at the dealership. I didn't have a life outside of work, so that distracted me for a bit. And I want to say when I found so I sold cars for 4 years. Then I sold solar for 2 years. That's a whole nother story. But
I bet.
But so I stopped doing that. Then I found the other half of the book, and I was like, you know what?
Here's my sign.
Yeah, let's do this. So now, obviously, when Caroline, committed suicide in July, there was a period where I did not get much done. There's
absolutely
definitely a grieving period.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I still grieve, it just comes now. And if anything, it's just reaffirmed my goal of wanting to help people and let people know that they are not alone, that there's help out there. You just got to ask for it. People cannot help you if they do not know what is going on.
So why do you believe in the community? I know I've got my beliefs about the community. I think they're a group of people that have your best interest at heart, that want to see you succeed instead of fail. That's what I consider family or community or connection or whatever you want to call it. That's who I stay accountable to, not only to myself, but them. But so what are your beliefs on that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we're stronger together than separate. And, the collective conscious is a real thing too. I mean, it's like, I mean, none of us are independent. We're all interdependent. We all depend on people for different things at different times. We all get support at different times, and that support can change forms. But the fact is we're all interdependent. I mean, they've done studies that showed that prolonged periods of incarceration or of time in the hole leads to the same brain damage as multiple concussions.
Yeah.
And, there's a reason for that. And I think it kind of dates back to almost like pre-society, like cave dwellers. If you were alone, then you were more likely to be picked off by a predator. So you were safer in groups. So I think it's just kind of ingrained in us, not to mention, the need to procreate, to keep the species going. And there's just ample reasons. But so, I mean, building a strong community with similar values is how we make real change. It's opening up these discussions, and some of them are tough discussions, but I've had tough discussions in jail, with a bunch of
absolutely,
and things remain civil. We didn't attack each other, and it felt productive. I don't know why we can't do the same when we're free. I don't know why we attach so much to our beliefs that we get angry with people who don't believe what we believe.
I agree.
I mean, it's open dialogue and disagreement and, sometimes friction to build something better.
And that goes to what happened, 9 days ago now, that goes to that whole subject. And I think that's a terrible thing, that people get hurt over an opinion.
Yep.
If you can't have a dialogue, if you can't have open forum communication, if you can't have, active communication and active listening and be able to communicate effectively, then, we revert to violence. What's up with that? Just because we don't agree? There's a lot of people that are not going to agree with me, and I don't care. They can talk to me. I'm at one point in time, I did a lot of mean things in prison. I would fight over an opinion too. I fought over football games. Come on, but we grow from that. We grow. And once you realize that violence necessarily ain't the best answer, you grow a lot. And if there's anything that you want anybody to take away from this podcast, what is it? What's the main thing you want somebody to take away from this?
Just know that you are not alone, and that as long as you have hope, your situation can improve. Change is the only constant. That's the only thing that's pretty much guaranteed. Life is going to change. Your life is going to change. And it's just coming to a place where you can accept whatever happens to you and attach to the light within you and let that guide you. And that will help you fulfill your purpose.
And one more question. If anybody's out there just trying to get sober, trying to get over something, a traumatic experience or something traumatic in their life, whether it be good or bad, if they're stuck in a job, they want to raise, they want something better. They just feel stuck. What would you say to them?
Well, first you have to identify what it is that you want to change and then what you want to change it to. So, I mean, that's going to be the first step, is identifying what it is that you're discontent with, why you're discontent with it, and what you would be content with. And not even just content, but happy with, joyous over, because life it's too short to spend it miserable. And, whether that's in a job, in a relationship, in negative traits or behaviors, it doesn't too much matter. I mean, as you said, if we're not growing, we're dying. So I very much believe that.
All right. Well, Andrew, it's been a pleasure having you up here. It is our time, and that is my show. And I just want you to know I appreciate you coming up here. I am super proud of what you're doing and continue to do. Keep doing it, brother, because you're going to do fantastic things. You're going to help a lot of people in prison, out of prison, in life in general. I am glad to know you. It's been an honor.
Thanks. You as well. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a great talk for sure.
And that's Rockin' Recovery, where we rock our recovery. We just bring messages of hope. You can do it too. Look at Andrew. Look at me. Look at all the other thousands of people out there in recovery, changing their lives daily. Don't think that you're alone, because you're not. You can do it also. And that's that. See y'all later.